Hi, in this video I'll be showing you how to use Maya Muscle to set up a simple bicep muscle system to deform an arm geometry. Now before we get started, let's go in Windows Settings and Preferences Plugin Manager and make sure that the Maya Muscle plugin is loaded. Okay, so check that and refresh and then hit close. So once that's done, we can go into the End Dynamics menu and we'll find over here the muscle menu, right? And everything that's in here can pretty much be accessed also in the muscle shelf, right? So I went ahead and just for this demonstration, keep in mind that the workflow for setting something like this up is pretty much the same across the board. We'll be using this simple cylinder to represent an arm, but the setup is essentially the same. Just the geometry is what changes. Okay. Now this is going to be a basic setup. So all I'm going to do is just like any other rig setup. I'm going to select the two joints and bind this geometry to them. So let's go to skin, bind skin, smooth bind. I'm going to select the joints and bind skin. Okay, so we get a simple bind, nothing too fancy. Now, to actually create a muscle system, right? A muscle system, we need some muscle objects in place. Okay, something that's going to deform. So we can go and create. I'm going to create a nerve sphere, and because, like I said, this is going to be a bicep muscle, right? If I jump here, this is how a bicep muscle kind of looks like, right? So kind of elongated, thicker in the middle, inserts at the shoulder and roughly after the elbow, right? Now the setup doesn't need to be anatomically correct, but just needs to kind of get an overall close to accurate shape. Let's put it that way. Okay, so let's kind of position this in place. Okay. I'm going to go to component mode. I'm going to scale these endpoints like this. I'm going to place them at the shoulder. Same with these. And this I want to place with some offset from the elbow. And the reason for that is because we're going to have controls driving this mesh, this bicep geometry, and as you'll see, when it deforms, we need to have the control is going to be parented to this forearm joint, and when the joint rotates, we want some offset to allow for the control to have some range of motion. If it's right on top of the joint, and when the joint rotates, there's going to be very minimal range of motion, right? So we have our bicep roughly in place right there, right? The next thing we want to do before we even create a muscle deformer on this bicep is make sure that we have a muscle system in place. Now, this skin cluster that we have here won't work with the actual muscle deformer, so we need to create what we call a muscle system on this geometry. So because we already have a smooth skin in place, I'm just going to hit convert smooth skin to muscle system, and we can delete the original skin cluster once it's done, right? And this is the reason why I actually created the smooth skin, not only to show you a workflow where if you already have the mesh bound to your rig, to your joints, but also because it'll already, because it already has the joints, and it'll already create these capsules that are going to be used to drive the muscle object, right? It's going to create these capsules and already add weight to them, so it's going to reduce our workload pretty much. Okay, so we want to choose the x-axis for this, right? Because that's how we have our joints drawn. So my default is x-axis, and there we go. It's calculating. And if we hit template, okay. There we go. Let me get this out of this layer. There we go. Template. For the shaded mode, we get these white objects, which are our capsule. Okay. Reduce the radius so you can see that better. So these are like our words replacing our joints, our bones. Okay. This is what we're going to use to drive our muscle. Now that we have our skin converted to a muscle system, we can select our muscle geometry and create the muscle deformer. Now there are two types of muscle deformer, the muscle spline and the muscle stretch. For this I'm going to use the muscle spline because it allows us to customize how many controls we want, and just because it's a relatively quicker setup, and we get pretty decent deformation. So there we go. We have it created for us 3 controls. We select this one control here and move. You see we get really nice squash and stretch. You know, really nice resemblance to a flexing bicep. Yeah, and the volume is preserved pretty nicely. Obviously, you can even tweak further how this is going to deform by going into our muscle spline deformer. You can tweak these settings here with the squash, the stretch, all that is over here. But what we want to do next is parent constraint this control to the joint form, right? So we want to select that, and we want to select the control itself. Okay, select it and go to muscle objects and connect selected muscle objects. Oops, I completely messed it up. Okay, we want to actually constrain this. I'm sorry. So we want a parent constraint. So when we rotate this, you'll see we'll get really nice motion. And this is what I was talking about when I said leaving that offset here. So it actually has some space to deform. Oops. Okay? If it was right here, then this control wouldn't move at all. See? That's pretty similar to how our biceps actually work. So finally, once we have that done, we can go ahead and all we need to do is add this as a muscle object to this muscle system, to deform this muscle system. So we'll add that by going to muscle objects, connect selected muscle objects, and we'll hit auto calculate. And still, it's still not actually deforming, as you've seen here. The next step that we need to do is simply add the influence to that muscle object. And we can do that by selecting our skin geometry and going to muscle, paint muscle weights. Right? And this is very similar to painting weights on our smooth skin, in Maya's smooth skin. We can just go to our nerve sphere, and I'm going to just roughly do this. I'm going to replace it with a weight of 1, make our brush size bigger, and I'm just roughly going to patch in bicep area. Okay, just so you guys can see, something like that. And then hit close. Now if I rotate my arm, you see we get the bicep deforming, the geometry. Cool. So that's pretty much it for how to set up a simple muscle system. Now I'm gonna go and open an actual file that I have here with the same setup on actual arm geometry, an arm model, and with some clean weight painted, we can get really nice deformation. And you notice with when it's actually animated, we can get our jiggle overlap action here. Okay, and all this can be tweaked if we select our muscle system. We have a jiggle and all this in here. Okay, but that's pretty much it. Really simple, pretty straightforward. You can start creating some really nice, intricate muscles by just piling one on top of each other and making really nice deformations. Okay, so I hope that was helpful, and I hope you guys use this and start making your own muscles. Okay, thank you for watching.